In the modern world, people look for solutions. In this fast-paced modern civilization where many things have progressed since ancient times, we have come a long way in many respects, but in others, things have deteriorated considerably. One of those things that have deteriorated are things like uncertainty. Certainty has deteriorated and uncertainty has propagated within the minds of each individual. Why? Many reasons, but the main one is, of course, due to some explanations that we have now that we didn't have before. People used to believe in other things, and mainly they were argued metaphysically. They couldn't really be proven through reason, and therefore those things were taken as truth. People were born into a certain slice of truth, if you like, and within that, they held that to be true 100%. It's like a language. You grow up in a certain place and you will learn that language because your parents are talking to you and you are listening to things around you in the environment, and you learn how to decipher the code of that language. So we learn how to speak it, some better than others, or obviously because of education and the environment, and also because of their own willingness. They may decide to read more and so forth, and also listen to certain types of people talk, as opposed to some people might decide to listen and talk to other types of people who maybe aren't as articulate, and so forth. And this is not a secret. It's something we all learn. Just like a language, we also learn our philosophy, our religion, and many other aspects of life that we consider a certainty. And it is a certainty, and it was a certainty because those things were not analysed, and they were not debated, or they were not scrutinised through reason. It was taken for granted, just like we are told there is oxygen in the air all around us, and none of us really have any inclination or desire to debate against that, or even to question it. What for? But we all are certain. Now, maybe there will come a time where science will prove that there isn't any oxygen, I don't know. And then we will look back and say, oh, we all thought and believed 100% that was true. And it's not questioned. It's not our fault now that we do not question that there's oxygen around us, because there is no proof otherwise. And that is the same with everything else in life, especially important things in life, such as morality, ethics, religion, culture, language, and many other things that come into play. We are caught up in that thin slice of reality, and there's no way of escaping it really, unless you talk to other people broad-mindedly and you listen to what they have to say through their thin slice of reality. Not that we have to accept it or adopt it, but just to understand that all we have is that slice, and it doesn't necessarily mean it is the truth. Once we have had throughout history, especially in the last 200-300 years, a rise in other explanations of how things work, the other things we held as valuable and as certain started to become questioned. One of those big things obviously is morality, and tied to religion. And because morality has always been closely tied to religion, or vice versa, I would say that religion has always held morality close to it, because morality is a man-made thing. And we have all grown up with a myth that religion does hold morality, and there is nowhere else to get that from. But there are many different types of religion, and there are many different types of peoples in the world that adopt different type of religion, and a lot of them are tied to very, very similar morality. Some are a bit more aggressive in attaining that type of morality, but all in all, there seems to try to promote a goodness of the person, or at least a goodness of the person's behavior. not necessarily that the person is good or people are good, human beings are good. On the contrary, I would think, because if we require that, it means that people are by nature bad, and therefore we have to impose these rules so then people can at least behave. And if they do not, then there will be consequences. Now we know that that is not true. We know that man, women, humans, if you like, do make up their own morality, are inherently good. There are some people that are not. I'm a psychologist, and I've met many people that are not, that have done terrible things in life, ranging from stealing a chewing gum from a kiosk to torturing, raping, and killing people for the fun of it. All these people are human. And I'm sure all of us have done something that we regret. We have taken something that isn't ours. We have lied to someone, maybe to help them, maybe not. We have earned something that wasn't ours or shouldn't have been ours, and we've taken it. We've all done something. Some of us progress from that and learn, some don't, but till the day we die, we'll always be making mistakes, and that is the beauty of being human and of the earthly life, that we do learn from that if we can, or most of us do anyway. Some people, like I said, have certain type of issues and will never learn and will remain, if you like, to put it in a terribly moral and ethical manner, will remain bad, so to speak. And there's nothing that can really save them apart from medication and drugging them to the point that they can't talk, walk, or behave in any way, either good or bad. Now, with this access to new information on how the world works also comes the deterioration of other values that we held certain, or peoples in the history of humanity held certain. And as I have said, it wasn't their fault that they didn't know it wasn't true, because truth is not absolute. It was their truth at the time. Now we have various truths. So it's important, I think, in this day and age, despite having to remain broad-minded, it's very important to have one's own truth that works. And therefore, if it's aligned to God or not aligned to God, if it's aligned to being a good, if you like, for want of a better word, human being or not, this has to be done through an introspective analysis of one's own beliefs. And that only can happen once we understand or accept that maybe one's own beliefs are not the truth, and therefore I will be able to progress in my own belief and as a human being. But that only comes from the standing point of accepting, not believing, but accepting that everyone has a point to make due to their experiences, due to their culture, their language, to the time they were born, their parents and other things. They have the right to think a certain manner in a time of their life, which may be very, very different to ours. It doesn't make theirs right, of course, because some things are just not right. Killing people, torturing, raping, stealing isn't right. Whether you are an atheist or a theist, or you just decide to remain on the fence as an agnostic, it doesn't really matter what you believe. Some things are just not right. The only thing that's important to me as a psychologist is that the individual decides and can make up their mind how they are going to live their life, whether it's through their God, without having to propagate it around. Because if we fall back to the premise that everyone has their own reality for a reason, and that reason is environmental, also restricted to the time and place they are born, and their experiences through life, then we need to respect that. So just as much as I wouldn't suspect that people, once they find that they like a team, a football team, for certain reasons, they don't need to go around telling people that they have to also like this team. They like it because of the colours, because they're winning, or because they're losing. They like the underdog, or they have their favourite player playing there. That is fine. But other people like other teams, or else there would only be one team. That's what human beings are like. That's why diversity is good. And if everyone decided that they would have a personal belief that they want to live by and that makes them extremely happy, then that would be a great step for humankind to move forward, because it means that we are not stepping on other people's toes. We are not treating others like we know something they don't, because all of us know something that others don't. It just depends how much you feel that is important. And despite having the urge to save others morally, I think the keys in order to live in a society that has different political, religious, and otherwise philosophical differences, the only way to live is to have a personal and private experience of these thoughts that lead us to happiness, and try to avoid the temptation of having to propagate our own personal thoughts that come from a very, very, very thin slice of reality within the scheme of things. We are born after millions of years of the earth existing, then we will die, and millions of years the earth will exist again. We're only a speck within a speck of the universe, of course, very, very minute. That thought that we have in our head, that wonder that we feel that we have achieved and found suddenly, that's come to us and to no one else for some reason, that is very important to keep that to oneself. Because what happens is that once we start trying to convince and convert others to our way of thinking, the starting point of that is to believe that the other person does not have a good way of thinking, has not seen or experienced what needs to be experienced in order to be happy. And I would say, as a psychologist, that that would probably be offensive to most people, because you're starting from a point of superiority and grandiosity. If I say I have information that you don't, that makes me happy and you will never be happy without this, and therefore I'm giving it to you, that would seem like quite an altruistic way and manner of behaving, but it's not. It comes across as quite patronizing, because people that don't have that thought that you may have, they don't have it for a reason. Not because they haven't been able to experience it, it's because they chose not to have it. There's plenty of access of information for people to be able to choose any type of religion or political ideal or football club. And they choose Manchester United and not Arsenal for a reason. They know Manchester United is there, but they chose Arsenal maybe because they were born there, they like the colours, or maybe because it's something that's quite easy for them. The stadium is close. Whatever the reason, most people, especially educated people, would have access to this. They do not need someone else trying to explain to them in an aggressive manner usually, and a downright patronizing way, that they have not seen the light, either religiously or politically, or other forms, even philosophically or morally, because I would suspect most of those people are aware all these things exist. Most of us are aware that there are few religions in the world that we could choose, that there are a few football clubs, there are a few political ideals, and there are a few stands on morality, on civil rights movements, on sexuality. We all know that. We all have a private opinion on most of these matters. Yet we have to sometimes refrain from discussing it publicly, because it may mean that it may cause certain grievances to others, although that does not mean that one should not debate and analyse with a cold head, with open-minded people that are ready to adopt and at least listen to another slice of reality that they have no access to, because they understand that that human being is caught in that little thin slice of reality, and I can exchange language and thoughts with that other person without requiring to be converted, without requiring to be even understood, but just listened to sometimes. And that time goes by. We've had a great time. We've discussed, we've talked. And you know what? And that is it. There is no need for a result afterwards. And if most things happen that way, this world would be far better. I know it's not going to happen that way because history shows that there's always going to be differences, and within those differences, people are not going to like it for some reason. Rather than embrace difference, most people are going to feel threatened by it. And when someone decides to talk to someone else about their difference, what they feel is an attack to themselves, a personal attack of themselves, rather than a debate or an analysis of what they think. And therefore, that's why it's quite important, I feel, to transcend when debating into a realm of analysis and reason rather than emotion and aggressiveness, because what is being discussed are the thoughts we all have, our different thoughts, because we can't help that. We are born differently, we are born in different places, we are born with different outlooks and environment, and there is no way we can adopt philosophies that go totally against our reasoning. Maybe some people do for some period of their life, but a lot then decide to go back because, as I always say, water always finds its own level. It's very difficult to maintain a position that one does not truly embrace. One can do it, just like Galileo did for a little while, to retract and say, no, you know what? The earth does not revolve around the sun, because his life was in danger. But in his thoughts, I'm sure everyone else knew, even the people who were hounding him knew that all he had to do was verbalize it. He didn't really need to believe it. And that's all it takes. We can all say many, many, many different things. It doesn't mean we need to believe them. And I think when debating, it's very important to have in mind that we have no access to the other person's slice of reality. All we have is through their words, and we are all limited through our articulation of the language on how we can express that. And therefore, we will never be able to really put our point across exactly how we feel it or think it. And if there is that premise of flexibility when discussing life with people that are different to us, that hold different types of beliefs, then we are well aware that what they are saying does not necessarily represent exactly what they feel or believe. All it is a connection between people where they are capable of learning from each other as much as possible without feeling the worry or the threat of having to accept what they believe or what they interpret through their words to believe. That is outright primitive with regards to the way we have now evolved on this planet. The fact that there are so many types of races and religions means absolutely nothing. What connects us and makes us similar is much more powerful. There's only very, very small differences biologically between us all. And yet the differences of language, culture, religion, political ideals, and football clubs become or seem to be the most significant thing. And that is a real shame until humanity can overcome that aspect that we have, that we all share, unfortunately, that aspect of inflexibility with regards to other people's realities, then it will be very, very difficult for all humans to be happy on this planet. I myself believe that I won't see it, but I think with regards to evolution, we will be able to formalize a way that we will save ourselves from each other.